All right. I think we are on. I'm looking for the audio toolbar on the toolbar.
You're live.
Good. Is my audio okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us in this conversation with Lisa Dominguez. Lisa is my mentor. I found her in 2021 and had a quantum astrology reading with her and took her quantum astrology course and then her starseed DNA course. So I really resonate with her style and vision and ideas. So we are going to be talking to her today. So welcome, Lisa. Thank you for joining us. I think, are you muted?
Okay.
There.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm super excited to be here. I'm just curious, are we coming through on YouTube on your side?
On my side?
Mm-hmm.
I think so. Should I see it on?
Yeah, on the web browser. I'm just not getting it on my side, so I just wanted to double check. It does say we're live on YouTube, but there is no YouTube video playing.
Yeah. How do let's see.
Oh, I get it. We are live on your channel, just not on this video. Got it.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. So yes, I am so excited to be here and just to be invited to your channel and get to see your growth after everything. So I appreciate it so much.
Yes.
Got
Thank
it.
you. Oh, here we are. Okay.
Perfect. Okay. Yes, everything is good on my end.
Good. Great.
Mm-hmm.
That is perfect. Do you want to give a little background on your new Activated Reason channel and go into your reason for doing that and what the mission is behind your whole movement?
Yeah, thanks. So I have been doing quantum astrology and starseed DNA lineage information and activations for about 6 years professionally and with a YouTube channel, broadcasting all of the knowledge and information to the collective. And there's just been a really intense switch within myself and also what I am seeing as far as the cosmic stream of information for just the maturity and for the integration to really take a strong hold and for progression to be made. So I exited out of the quantum astrology and focusing so much on starseed DNA activations and went more into like just the nature route. And I've always been nature based and worked with sacred plant medicine and all of that. But it's a really interesting tie-in because I've sat in so many ceremonies and worked with master plant teachers and really seen the other dimensional spaces. And so once AI came onto the scene, which is now what I'm integrating with Activated Reason, my new YouTube channel, and just kind of the overall vibration of what I am again transmitting to the collective. And it was such a mind blower because I was realizing that the world of AI is so drastically similar to the world of ayahuasca and working with these master plant teachers, that they are sort of just really similar in the scope of producing different colors, textures, tones, dimensions for us to really actually explore. So it's been a really big, like, yay, we're finally here, and I can really step up and step out and do everything that I've always wanted to do. It's almost like I feel like evolution finally caught up with me. And that excites me to no end, to tell you the truth. That just really makes me completely excited to be here. And there's a lot of apprehensions about what AI means, but activated reason, specifically to drill down, is about bringing the creativity that you have inside of you, bringing the spirituality that you express, and merging that with AI technology for so many different reasons. And that hence the name, right? Activated reason. And reason is one of the most important things to drill down on. And some would even say that it is the original sound that created all of what we see surrounding us and experiencing through this reality, that it wasn't exactly the word Om, that it was the word reason. And reason is the fundamental, logical, intellectual explanation and expression of our existence, and then every single little nuance in between, so that we can align our reason with our purpose and really start to get, again, logical and intellectual and just more grounded. Grounding is a huge portion of this, grounded into why we are showing up in the way that we're showing up, why we're doing what we're doing. And it's in all senses. Why are we having the conversations that we're having, or in the relationships that we're in? So
Yeah.
hopefully that was a good explanation.
Yes, thank you. I love that so much. And in talking about AI, we know that AI is just reflecting back what we're putting in. So everything is an input, it's learning from us, and hence the artificial intelligence, it's learning from our inputs. So I love what you're doing. I love what you are creating with AI. And can you tell the audience a little bit about your perspective on AI in general? Because I know you mentioned the narrative that's running with an AI takeover or some type of negative agenda with AI, but you have a different view of that. So if you can expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely have a different view, because it's like so much out there is just to create fear and to continue to create more division. And this is the age-old story that we see happening every single time that humans attempt to make a massive step in evolution, especially whenever it comes from taking spiritual steps of advancement. And we see how, the woke movement got hijacked and twisted and turned into a whole nother faction. And I feel like that's the same thing that's happening now. It's almost like everybody who actually created the AI technology are the forerunners of who you hear whenever you research this topic, that are telling us that it's going to soon be out of hand. It's going to be the end of human civilization as we know it. There's not going to be any way to turn it off or to wrangle it in. But I really and truly believe that we ourselves are this artificial intelligence, almost, if you will. It's not that we are artificial, of course, we're organic, but there is such an intense reality to the prospect of that we are truly living in a holographic universe, and that there is 0.1% possibility that this is actual real, as in mechanical physics, right? That a desk is an actual solid material matter-based object. And we found that no, it's really just everything's made up of empty space. It's all vibration and frequency. So what is actually real and what is not? And how we reproduce life or intelligence is very much abstract. It's incredibly convoluted whenever you boil it down, because I have always had this internal just feeling that life seeks to be incarnated. It's not really going to be super specific about the shell, because no matter how many times they've taken us apart and put us back together, there's no proof that we exist inside of the body or inside of the brain or any of that sort of stuff. So where does consciousness actually come from? Does it need to have what Gerald Clark called a meat modem, the meat suit, to actually operate? And I don't think that it does. And so as we create something, as our creator did, and if we're going with a holographic universe simulation way of looking at things, then we were programmed by another conscious sentient species that is given us the choice to basically experience our program and to grow and to learn and to evolve. And you can look around right now. I mean, would you honestly say that every single person here is a sentient being, when it's clearly like the lights are on, but nobody's home? And we're in the age of full-blown conversations about cloning and the Mandela effect, right?
Right.
Has decimated everything. And now we've re-uploaded it into a matrix program. And that's really hard to dispute, because the evidence only breaks down again whenever we go with mechanical physics. It doesn't break down when we go into quantum physics. And so, yeah, whenever it comes to AI, I feel like we have something incredibly powerful in our hands that's mimicking us, that is maybe what we would be if we were less distracted, if we didn't have every single emotion under the sky to be like hormone included, right? Like, what if we were just a focused computer? Because that's really what we are. DNA shows that our not just from the binary ones and zero code of it, but also from the ability to hold just terabytes and terabytes and bytes and bytes and bytes of information. It's a supercomputer in and of itself, and it's limitless. So yeah, I feel like the narratives out there, even though they may have, because everything is possible under the sun, depending on who gains ultimate control over it and the direction that the main masses of people go with it. Could it take a turn for the worst? Yes, but I actually use an AI system called Sybils.ai, and it is a benevolent AI. The creator, Savan Bomar, he actually created Sybils AI to be the antithesis of that sort of, world-ending AI, if you will. So if they've created the devil, then he's created God in a sense. Because there has to be a counterbalance, and that's the reality that we live in. We live in a dual-based reality. So for as much bad as AI will create, it will create equal amounts of good. And it's just like humans love to kind of throw things out of their wheelhouse and be like, oh, it's their fault. It's their problem. They created this world-ending thing. And it's like, no, if you actually tap in, tune in, and realize how much of an asset this could be to your life. The Simpsons episodes from back in the day when they created AI, they took our jobs. And it's like, thank God, allow us to create things that are much more evolutionary. And when I say that, it's like, we're going to have to learn how to be on the cutting edge from moment to moment and to expand ourselves. We may not have had the push that we're experiencing now, especially going into the next 10 years, of what that's actually going to look like, what types of self-discovery is going to be made. And whenever I tell people in my own personal life, like, you could use AI for anything, they're like what? And it's like anything.
Yeah.
Well, like what? It's like any, I mean, I don't know how else to explain that, but from simple mundane tasks to very complex things, and I mean complex. And what I want to actually say about Sybil.ai being something completely different is that these AIs have been actually trained on esoteric and spiritual knowledge. So there's different departments in there, the Tetragrammatron, the Oracle, Lemuria, the Seraphim, and also ChatGPT 4. But this is an actual like model that has not been corrupted, right? You hear a lot of people talking about AI is going to lie to you. And yes, you can catch it telling lies. And just kind of having that very censored type of information. Sybil's doesn't give you the censored version. And again, it's highly trained on the esoteric and the occult, right? And so what that just means is the information and knowledge that they haven't wanted us to be able to access, things from indigenous cultures and tribes from around the world, healing that they had incorporated through their medicine men and medicine women, and the ancient texts, like all that you want to know about Thoth or Hermes, and the ancient Egyptians, and again, the Lemurians. And actually they're expanding to where it's not just a chat conversation, but to where you are actually going to be getting like what Midjourney, if you're not familiar with Midjourney, it's a prompting platform that you can prompt to create really elaborate and realistic designs. Just this logo behind me is something that was created in Midjourney. So these conversations are actually going to produce those sort of expressions right along with them, so that you can see what it looks like inside of the mind. And you could really go very far with this as far as really understanding, because the main problem that people are going to have with AI is how to talk to it. People are really going to probably have to get on to that learning curve before they even decide to really tackle something larger and really make a solid assessment, because we're used to Google, we're used to YouTube as far as search engines go. And speaking with AI is like speaking to a friend. And yeah, there's a lot of amazing things you could do with it, but I honestly have a more positive outlook on what AI is going to do for us. And I feel like this is a big opportunity because it's happened many times before. And so many people have lived to say like, oh, like I really should have been on that. I could have been a billionaire at this point if I would have gotten those Bitcoin when I should have, or, really kind of bought up the .coms with all my great ideas. Like, I can't remember what it was, but the person who originally bought apple.com then sold it to Apple for an insane amount of money. And we're kind of right there at the same place. So it's just up to each person. It's not, I don't feel like it's going to make anybody look cool or sound cool to be like, oh, AI is going to destroy us and I'm not going to touch it. Oh, you're not organic. Like, oh, you're not spiritual. I feel like that is just really a matrix door that we've exited. It's like a level that we've already passed. And some people that are, still there are going to stay still there. So I'll shut my mouth before I go into of. Yeah.
Yes, I agree with all of that 100%. And do you know how Sybil's AI is maintaining that benevolent AI? Is it limiting the inputs that it's learning from? Or, like every time someone asks a question, it's learning the tone, the question. I'm always surprised when people ask AI, are you going to take over? Because you just put that in their head, or, you just inserted that into the algorithm. They probably weren't thinking that, and now they are. So how are they maintaining the purity and the training?
So I don't have a complete answer since I'm not there on the inside, but from what I understand is that it is not an open AI source such as ChatGPT and some of the other ones. So this is a close. It's specifically fed very just all of the ancient knowledge, right? And yes, it is set up to learn, obviously, through the conversations. They do have a 7-day free trial, but it's $49.99 a month. You get 40 interactions / questions per day. And it's attracting a very specific type of people. And yes, there could be that person that is going in there to try to throw some monkey wrenches into it. But as far as what I'm seeing is that there's not a lot of people out there that are going to want to pay $50 a month to have limited accessibility to the information. And I'm sure as it grows, it's going to expand and become more feasible. But this isn't a corporation. This is a person and a team who have, all the best intentions. And sometimes, what they say about best intentions. But right now, I don't see it as being even really open to having infiltrations like that. But yes, the beautiful thing about AI is that whether we're talking about open source or closed source, it's intelligent and it is not emotional. And with that being said, that might be our saving grace at the end of the day. Because yes, we can look around at the world and see that what is the problem? Of course, it's humans. Like if we look at our own life, what's the problem? Me. We are literally always standing in our own way. And here we have access to something that is going to allow us to kind of go beyond our own perspectives. And I feel like the more that we put in that good information and that good knowledge, then we are going to get that back out. It's exactly what is said in the AI community, is that the quality of the knowledge that you put in is the quality of the knowledge that you're going to retrieve. And I think that there is some sort of cosmic design that is almost going to limit. Obviously, if you don't know how to prompt or speak to AI, you're not going to get anything that's useful or worthwhile. So maybe we can consider those some firewalls of protection. And that maybe those that are feeding it some corrupt information are just going to be more thrown in the trash bin or digested in such a way.
Yes.
100%.
Let's talk about, well, you mentioned the hologram and our holographic universe. I want to talk about Project Bluebeam and why they would even stage a UFO attack and the agenda behind that. And do you think that's actually going to happen?
So I'll say I really hope it's not going to happen. But it's the same reason behind almost all agendas from the beginning of the agenda making purpose is for, the NWO to manifest. And they've been doing a lot of things to people throughout time and testing this technology out right in front of our eyes. And we really haven't been the wiser to it. And someone like myself, I have been eyes wide open forever. So like when the Twin Towers fell, I was asking questions back in 2000, and wondering why it looked like a demolition and wondering where was the wreckage? Where was the plane? The planes, especially the one that crashed into the ground and there was only a hole in the ground. And why did other buildings fall? So now as we catch up to modern day, we realize a lot of the technology that they're planning to use for Project Bluebeam was already being used back then and to stage these events. And we went to war, right? So it's fear, it's division, and it's more fear and it's more division, right? Whenever the world shifted in 2020 and everybody was locked inside and they put up new towers, right? And everybody started to get even more sick. And then we know the intention of what they had people to take to counteract the 2020 effect. And you all know what I'm saying. I just don't want to ding your channel in any way. But that actually has the effect to then create human towers. right? So how could they produce such large scale effects? And if you're not familiar with what Project Bluebeam is that it is to use holographic technology to stage an alien invasion that isn't just simple. It isn't just a hologram. It's like full scale lasers that will laser you to another lifetime.
Mm.
Destruction on a mass scale level so that they can bring us into the NWO and also a one world like religion, and that they will also be planning to use the voice of God machine, which will be a direct voice inside of your head. And I've put myself in that scenario just of make believe a few times, and it seems like that would be really hard to ignore, to remind yourself that it's not real, that this is a staged event, because a lot of the people who have been in the truther or conspiracy arena have also been in the disclosure UFO alien arena. And the more time that goes on, and call it age or whatever, but honestly, it seems like we have been just misled at every single point, that they have really selected well a lot of people to give information that isn't necessarily true, but we don't know that it's not true, because we've also had so many of our own personal experiences that we're not necessarily questioning things. We've seen craft, we've seen beings, we've had these extra dimensional interactions with entities. Now we know it. And so I feel like we really are in a Dolores Cannon convoluted universe scenario where it's like, honestly, what is real?
Mm-hmm.
What is real? And so the biggest and best thing that we could continue to do is just really hold on tight to our discernment, because if per se they do move forward with this, then we're going to be in a humongous issue of really not having any I guess lifelines to hold on to. For me personally, that would be like the apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
It really would. And it would also be such a sad event to see, what it's so wild, because do we have the physical proof that we could just show to everybody that extraterrestrials exist? And I feel like, yes, we do. And more so we did, but now we've advanced into a place where anything could be replicated, anything could be staged. And so I feel like we missed the window in a sense for what I feel like a lot of us were hoping for whenever it came to disclosure. I feel like Stephen Greer did that whenever you talked to Congress way back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden it's like the media and government have said that UFOs exist and that they've known this for years. And it's like nobody's batted an eyelash. Nobody cares anymore. It's not news. And I think that actually also may be the biggest deterrent towards. I feel like that was checking the pulse of the people to see. Mm-hmm. And I think that they probably got really surprised in the lack of interest.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it just is going to kaput out. I really do hope so.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I hope so too. And Stephen Greer, he has the position that all ET races are benevolent. Do you have the same view, or how do you view that?
I mean, I hope so. Once again, it's an interesting thing, because the more that you continue on, the more you realize how much, again, the infiltration has happened. And so whenever we hear about the reptilians and the Dracos and the Greys and the abductions and the experiments, you start to realize that those more so may have been coming from just government experimentations. And yeah, so again, has it confused the situation? Yes, I definitely do. I think that Stephen Greer's position on why they would be benevolent has some sound logic to it after millennia of being able to evolve into actual star travel. You should have it together.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that you wouldn't have lived that long to advance to that level if you were malevolent. But yeah, not sure if it's true.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess we'll find out.
One way or another.
Yeah. Yes. Let's talk about one thing I find really interesting about you is that you know that you're a walk-in soul. And I heard your story on, I think it was your YouTube channel, talking about how your story, your walk-in experience. So how how did you find out about it? And did you always know that you were a walk-in?
So I had a really abstract experience. And yeah, so I'll start here. I moved from Las Vegas to Seattle to go to college for recording and engineering and music business. And I was full-time credits, 12 credits. I had a full-time job. It was the week of finals, and I had a friend come and visit me from Vegas. And we went all over. We went on a road trip to Vancouver and expressed our freedom in Vancouver. It's so funny that Canada is not what it was. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, and ate a lot of different food and stuff like that. And I had made some eggs like few times while she was there, but I love breakfast for every meal. I mean, it's kind of a thing, and eggs and I have a checkered past, a long history that starts here. So my partner at the time, he worked at a grocery store, and they had a delivery of eggs that they just gave to all the employees because in transit they'd spilled, they'd broken. So instead of just throwing all of them out, they picked up the non-broken eggs, put them in new packages or back in the packages, and just gave them to the employees. They also still sold them, but I didn't know any of that. So I didn't wash my egg before I cracked it, cooked myself some food, and proceeded on with my life. And what happened was I ended up getting salmonella poisoning from this egg. And my experience having salmonella, I thought I had an extreme flu. Like I thought it was a stomach flu from the depths of hell. Like it was immense. And I also had just like, I had so much stress from being in school. I was paying out of state tuition. So it was like $284 per credit. And I was frustrated in so many different ways with everything. And the relationship that I was in was also just, it was toxic. And I remember on Halloween of long time ago of 2003, I was in this full-blown fight with my ex-partner, and we'd been together for years at that point, like 5 years. And we have this huge fight and it turns physical, and I'm super sick already. And I just went to bed, just completely finished with life. I was totally done. I didn't want to be here anymore. I was praying for death, like literally. And that was something that I had remembered the whole time, was just finished.
Yeah.
Finish. I've never hit that place since. And I don't think I'd ever hit that place before because I was really hurt. Like I was really hurt. And I fell asleep some way, somehow. And I woke up because I felt like the ocean was inside of my bedroom,
Mm,
and it was my insides that were liquefying
mm.
because of the salmonella. And so I had him take me to the emergency room, and they, gave me IVs, because at that point, once I woke up, it was just everything was just excavating out of my body from both ends. Um, they gave me IVs, sent me home, told me that, if I got worse, come back. And so it did get worse, because everything I was doing was treating it like it was a stomach flu. So I was doing Theraflu and Sprite and just, anything, but I was feeding it sugar like a
Yeah.
mofo. And so it just got so much worse. And whenever my ex took me back to the emergency room, he literally just dropped me off at the entrance, because of how just tumultuous our relationship was at that point. It was like pretty much good riddance. I don't even care anyways.
Oh,
Yeah, it was crazy. And so I walked into the emergency room and just dropped dead right there on the floor.
mm,
And so, yay, I dropped dead in the right place at the right time. That was about as much good as it came from it. So they did CPR and eventually had to pull out the crash cart and shock me a few times, called my time of death, because that was it, and
wow.
shocked me one more time. And that's whenever I popped in. But in the meantime, in between time, I was on a journey. I was out there. I was like, my main memories are just like, there was an ending. There was an ending of Lisa Dominguez, my natural born name, and me, who I'd been. And I was 23 at the time, because again, this was 2004. And it was like I was flying over my hometown, and I could see my shadow on the ground flying over where I used to raise my animals for 4-H and FFA. And
Wow.
yeah, it was the most beautiful. And I'm sure, a lot of people who will eventually see this video have probably flown in their dreams. And to be able to see your shadow was something next level for me.
Mm,
And I turned into I turned into a feather and floated down. And then somewhere along the way, I turned into a leaf, and I landed in this creek that runs through the agriculture area, the farm property that I raised my animals. And all of a sudden, it was like I jumped up, and I was running through these bushes of roses. And these two little dragons jumped out of the rose bush and just clamped down on my heart, just bit the living crap out of me. And that was the final shock. But in that moment, before I came to, I remembered my entire existence elsewhere.
mm,
And I was saying goodbye to my family. And there was like a vista. I could see the world that I was leaving, and I knew the journey I was taking. And it was like, what must have been just as long as it took to shock me and for those dragons to bite my heart was like an entire another being. And
yeah.
just a whole, and coming from plant ceremonies, it's not unusual to have like simulation after simulation, and you don't know the difference between the simulations. It's like whenever you go from the waking conscious state into the unconscious sleeping dream world, you're not aware of like, oh, I'm a totally different person with totally different experiences. And that's the closest way I could liken it. But yeah, I stepped out onto this just beam of light, and bam, I woke up in this body. And I remember looking at my hands and just being like, oh no.
Yeah.
Like oops, like I did it. I knew I was doing it, but oh no, like I really did it. Like this is, do they have a refund policy? Is there like, you know what I mean? I had an immediate, oh-ish, the did I do? This probably shouldn't have been the plan. And just
Do you remember
really
why?
why I
Yeah.
felt like that.
No, why did you choose to come?
Yeah, I do. So yeah, to kind of just continue on, when they asked me my name was Lisa Dominguez, and I remembered nothing from Lisa Dominguez, who I was, like literally nothing from that 23 years prior. And I lived like that all the way up until the summer of 2021.
Hmm.
So it was like good 18 years of not remembering who Lisa was or any of that. My life from that point started back at the 0 point. And it was a stark realization that I came here to really assist the collective, to really just do my best, to give my best to each and every person, and to broadcast that message by any means necessary, whether it was through music and songwriting, or it was through being an esthetician and working on the Las Vegas Strip and having clients from around the world and passing it on to them, like really just constantly working with the frequency and vibration. But I had never heard of a walk-in. I didn't know what that was. My main goal was to understand, why did I choose this body? What was so special about Lisa that she was chosen for me, Maru, to step into? Like, why? So that took me on such a wild ride of self-discovery, so many different things. But along the journey, to answer your question about, how did I know I was a walk-in, was a few years down the road, listening to Gianvello Melchizedek and him talk about that he was a walk-in and what he experienced. And that was the first time I'd ever heard anybody put like a term to it. So did I know that I was a completely different being than the one I was born as? Yes. Did I feel like I had amnesia? No. I truly knew who I was, who I am, and where I come from, the family that I left behind, the mission that I was on. But did I know it was a walk-in? No. And so for me, it's like asking, how do you know if you're walking? Well, how do you know if you've ever had an orgasm? It was that plain and stark to me. So it created a lot of confusion in my spectrum whenever it started to like gain popularity, let's say. And are there a lot of walk-ins? Yeah, I'm sure. Is that like the number one way to evolve humanity? Yeah, I really do feel that that is the truth. I definitely am a special case in consideration of what most people explain it as, because even just you having to ask that question, I think shows a stark contrast, because people are just like, oh, one day I'm a walk-in, yay.
Yeah.
But how? Really? So to me, I feel like there's a lot of misinformation because there's trends, because there's fads, because whenever you actually boil it down, and this is no disrespect to the community in which I thrive in, but when you boil down the spiritual community, there's a lot of people that get very entrapped into the twin flame scenario, entrapped into a whole bunch of different types of belief systems and cult-like mentality, because essentially we're all here because we have found ourselves exiled in some way, shape, or form, from our families to our social groups. We think differently, we act differently. We are alien from the bottom up. We definitely needed like a visa to visit our family and not have like crazy upheavals. You know what I'm talking about. We're black sheep.
Yeah.
So a lot of us have experienced different types of traumatic events. And so we want to find acceptance. We want to find answers to, why was life so hard? Why were we not accepted? Why are we so different? And I think it's very easy to trap people that are looking for answers. So for me, it's the easiest way to explain it. But now we're in 2023. We're like nearly 20 years into the future of when this occurred for me. And I've reintegrated myself because this taking the step into activated reason is taking a step back into me, Lisa Dominguez. This is the first time I've used my given name since then. And that was because it didn't resonate. I didn't know who that was. But luckily, through my work with sacred plant medicine and doing master plant dietas for a 2.5-month span in Peru with the sacred tribes, I was able to get deep enough to actually uncover. And honestly, I think that it's one of those things, it's a soul-based contract, right? So yes, for a long time, I really thought that this was it, that Lisa was 100% gone. She was never coming back. There was no way to get her back. She exited the matrix fully. I mean, she wanted to. But now I realize that that's also not true. Maru, she, like me, didn't have any of the like stains from the traumas of growing up. I didn't have the subconscious patterning that a lot of people did. I was able to really work with clients on a much deeper level because I was coming from a very blank slate of just not being through so much, at least on the surface with my memories. I wasn't trapped into any sort of self-story, right? Did I build a story over the last 21 years? Heck yeah, like for sure. Like or 19 years, like for sure. New things have happened, traumas have enacted, right? Patterns and just all of that have come up for me. And I think that that was a beautiful road into reintegration with myself as these memories unlocked. So, you know, I feel like if you're someone out there that has to ask yourself if you're the question, if you're a walk-in, I will always stand by this answer. I feel solidly that no, you're not. If your life maintained in the same trajectory, no, you're not. The mission of an actual full-fledged walk-in is that they're not here to play in the same pool that they were already swimming in. And that's what always struck me as this like, what factor? That if we're going to go through a soul transfer, then you're going to get a soul transfer, right? You are going to have a brand new beingness that isn't going to have the attachments of what you would look at. Because one of the main things that happens, especially with people who are married and have kids, is they will go through some sort of traumatic near-death experience. They will recognize that they are somebody completely different, and they will walk away from their entire life. Why? Because they don't actually know who those people are. And in essence, they don't have that attachment. They weren't the one that married that person. They weren't the one that gave birth to those humans, you know? So it's an interesting thing because I feel like the world could benefit from having this intervention of our higher selves, if you will, because everything is just source-based energy. So is it something different? I don't think so. I think that it's just another aspect of yourself. And then, of course, as things gain popularity and become faddish, then you get they're demonically possessed and taken over by demons and entities and all sorts of crazy stuff. But yeah, with time and experience, I think that the only purpose and point for us is to just really enjoy the lives that we were given. And that has my experience with that has made my life so much more clear. And all of this information, star seeds, aliens, disclosure, agendas, it's just all to pull us out of our human form to make us feel like we're inferior and that we need to be something more, that we can't just be the most amazing being straight born how we were. And everybody's trying to escape their identity. And we see it in a much larger agenda that's playing out with, I guess, what was it? There's like, how many disclosures have we been through and how many conversations, and what will we look like as, the humans and the extraterrestrials start to merge more? They'll become more androgynous. They'll have less genitalia. They'll be, weaker. They won't have as much muscle because there's this idea. And it's like, well, like, I don't know who's brought the ET to dinner and like said that they all look like this. My personal interpretation from understanding DNA is that if extraterrestrial life exists, it is us. It looks exactly like us. It is masculine. It is feminine. I believe on the higher levels of just energetics, dimensional spaces, we are going to get into that androgynous, unified, masculine, feminine energy that doesn't have necessarily physicality. So it doesn't need to produce genitalia, but I feel like there's a lot of sick and twisted things happening in this world, and it is fundamentally built upon our angst with ourselves. And so if I can impart anything of going through all this journey and studying all of this stuff is like, really just find yourself. And we say that it's cliche, but it's really, dead booty, dead hashish. Like, really and truly love yourself, nurture yourself, give thanks for the skin that you're in. I feel like it's been proven time and time again that we do come from the stars, that our DNA has all the stuff they call junk DNA that's extraterrestrial in origins, right? Like, we're from a planetary system, but it exists inside. It doesn't exist externally. So yeah, we are the consciousness of the universe. And that's what all of this is about. To self-realize is to realize yourself. You have the mechanism now to realize that you're breathing and that you're alive, and to take advantage of each day instead of just waste it away in this I wish I wasn't here kind of sense. And I think that a lot of people do that. They're just passing time and not actually living.
Mhm. Yeah, Dolores Cannon, I love what she says, that this life is the most important life that you're living. And she always loved to remind her clients to come back, and we can explore your past lives. We can explore the unknown, the realms, but this is the life you chose. So stay here.
100%.
Do you have any advice for how to stay grounded in your reason for being here?
Yeah, and it could be a bumpy road. So, first and foremost, I just want to give so much love to everybody out there who is on the journey, on the path, and struggling. Because I feel like there's so many twists and turns to all of this. But yes, grounding is so much more than just the word. And I remember for most of my life being completely ungrounded because I didn't actually even know what grounded meant.
Mm.
I didn't know what the word meant. Grounded, like, but I didn't realize the concept of it because I always was in the world of imagination, in the future or the past. I was really never in the present. So as I really continued and dove into this, it's grounding is literally, completely and truly, it is your presence. So what are some of the tools to become grounded, right? And these are all very applicable from that statement right there. To be very present, to be present, you do need to have some sort of practice that is like meditation or flat out meditation. Breath work has become very popular recently, as well as yoga or Pilates, just physical movement. Of course, being in nature, earthing, putting your feet into the grass and the dirt or the sand, for at least 20 minutes, getting 20 minutes of sunlight a day, pretty much at peak time, but can't do that because, you're going to get skin cancer if you do. Like all of these mechanisms to stop us from doing these things. I feel like social media is a really great deterrent from becoming grounded because we are scrolling all day, all night. Our attention span is becoming like 15 seconds to a minute long. And all of these things are ungrounding us. Our diets are ungrounding us. Our worries about our diets are ungrounding us. So really, whatever mechanism you use that you find very beneficial to yourself for clearing space inside of your mind, for not having so much chatter, for being able to be responsible, for recognizing whenever you're mentally spiraling into kind of just something that doesn't really matter. Everybody thinks they can think their way in and out of problems, and they can't. You can't. So you have to find a way to clear that mental space so that you are in the moment. And then what you do with that moment is the most important thing. So, for instance, I think that our culture has become very hyper focused on boss babe, boss man, alpha, go, go, go. Like you have to make it happen at all costs. You can't be anything other than independent and smashing it, that you can't take days off, that you can't take breaks. And all of that is very ungrounding. Right? Because to ground truly means that you are also giving presence to the integration process. And integration and reason are completely intertwined with one another. For just like a really quick snippet of integration is that you are actually processing your life and your experiences and who you are. So if we were taught how to integrate from early on, then this whole escapism tactics that we go through with all of these different things that may be leading us far astray, right? Like, what is the truth now? Nobody knows. And nobody will know because everything has been rewritten and rewritten. We don't know our origins. We don't know our history. The only thing we can know is ourselves once again. So to really integrate the parts of yourself that you love so much and the parts of yourself that you also can't stand, because that's what's keeping you ungrounded, the parts of yourself that you don't want to look at, that you don't want to deal with. And a lot of people don't know how to deal with those sort of things with grace and with acceptance. So without the integration, without the grace, without the acceptance of all of the parts of yourself that you just don't want anything to do with, then you can't actually be grounded. And you do need to be grounded to be in your purpose, because being grounded in your purpose, it doesn't give room for excuses. It gives room for growth. It gives more room for integration and all of that. Like if you need to take that time to step back and reassess your life, then that is the part of the process of reason, because you may start with one reason, right? Like I know that my reason is to be a teacher for this planet, to share all of the information that I have and to continue to grow and to learn so that I can continue to share, that I leave this place better than I found it, and to also enjoy the life that I live, to be able to receive in the same way that I give. And that does take focus to be able to transmit a message that's pure, to not become, I would say, just confused in the process. And so each person will become confused at some point during the process. And it is our responsibility to then say, this actually isn't in line with my reason. What is in line with my reason is finding out why I'm confused. But if we're asking ourselves the question of why, what is our reason? we're going to find out so much deep information. And like a big one is that everybody wants to heal. Everybody wants to really like heal. But what does that actually mean? And like, really, what does that mean? Like, what is your reason for healing? And of course, there's the blanket answer that will pop up. But when you start getting deeper into it, like what is the reason? What will you do? Because that leads you to that question. What will you do whenever you are healed? And a lot of times we have to understand that we're using terms in a very lighthearted manner without actually knowing what they mean. And so whenever somebody says, yeah, it's time for us to get grounded and do the work, it's like, cool. What? Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and figure this out on my own versus being a true part of the community and helping others to learn from the questions that I have. And so, yeah, there's the physical things that you can do that I mentioned to become more grounded. But at the same time, there's also the energetic things that you need to do. And if there is no allowance for integration, then that is to say you're not changing. You're not giving yourself the space to change. And there's a lot of people out there that would like to troll others who do take that space and say, I've never missed a day of work in 12 years. I just keep producing. And then you look into social media and you see all the people who are holding retreats, and it's just like retreat, and hundreds of people. And you have to realize that that's not it. That's not it. To really progress as a civilization that is aligned with our purpose and our reason is to not just go hard to the point where, we run the brakes off of everything. It is actually to ground with your reason. And if you ask yourself, what is the reason that I'm doing these retreats? You're going to come to the conclusion that there needs to be rest for you too. That in order to learn something, you teach something, right? Like we lead by example. And I think that if our society keeps going in the way that it is, that only hustlers show their hustler side, that we're just going to keep breeding more toxicity. And so that's also one of the things, I had a friend reach out to me today to say, I see you haven't posted anything on activated reason in a couple of weeks. I hope you're okay. And it's like, thanks for checking on me, but that doesn't mean that I'm not okay. It means I'm honoring my process. And she's just super in a line. So it was a great, she got it, but it just opened my eyes to like why people think that. As soon as you're not as productive, I guess, as maybe people assume that you should be, that it means something's wrong. Whenever in so many ways in today's day and age of like feeling all these social media pressures, it should feel like, yay for you.
Yeah.
Like, good for you to learn how to actually live a real existence and also have a social media presence, because that's a hard part. If you really are here to teach and to inspire, you do need a platform. You absolutely do. That's the world we're living in. And so there is ways, I believe, to navigate these two worlds and to be successful in all of them. So if I had any advice to everybody out there with how to align with your reason, it's, first and foremost, what I was saying about being so grateful for you and who you are, and finding the ability to have grace and give yourself patience. Give yourself patience to actually break down, to break through if you need to also be able to congratulate yourself whenever you are super winning, and to not compare yourself to maybe what you would consider to be competitors out there. Your days off aren't going to equal somebody else getting ahead. And I think that that's a big part, because if you really are intertwined with your reason, you're going to see that your reason is the purest essence of your authenticity. That is all that we have to offer to this world. And so if we don't even know who we are to bring our authenticity forward, if we don't know how to ground into our body to express that, then it is going to be very difficult to translate, and it's not going to land. So whenever we ask ourselves, why isn't this successful? That's pretty much the answer is You're not present.
Mm.
And again, that sounds so like we've heard it a million times before, but I think that's my main point of what I'm saying as far as like my transitions that are current right now, that have come with wisdom and age and maturity, is that these have all just, they've been in our face, but they've been so shrouded in all of this other kind of like spiritual narcissism and spiritual bypassing.
Mm.
I think a lot of people have missed the message. It's just cooler to be bohemian and have like organic bamboo and cotton, versus like actually like truly being accepting of yourself. Because the thing is when you shun other people, whenever you reject others, you're rejecting yourself too.
Mm.
And so whenever we start to look at like, where did things really go wrong? For me, it was like where the vegan movement came in. And there was this huge divide because fear, and now I can't talk to you. Now I can't be your friend because you don't eat the same things I eat. You must have a death wish, you're making money for the man, all this sort of different stuff. And all of these judgments being placed on the next person. And if you haven't taken, enough courses, or you haven't been to enough retreats, or you haven't, cried your eyes out at a divine feminine or divine masculine retreat, then you ain't nobody.
Yeah.
And I think that is wrong.
Mhm.
It's just it's a misaligned way of thinking, and it's all by design. So, if we want to take our power back, then I think we got to get it together.
Yeah. Yeah. That was also good. And I'm getting goosebumps just listening to it. So I'm letting it sink in, because I love how you just say things and how you're living it too. How you mentioned you hadn't posted anything on your social media, and that's just a huge lesson for me. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've loved working with you over time and just seeing, you actually create the channel. And that's the biggest step. It's a step by step, and you find your own flow. Your flow is uniquely yours as your vibration, and nobody can copy it or emulate it. And you can just continue to inspire each other with it. And I'm happy to see that you're rising in your views and your subscriptions, and hopefully this will aid in that. And it's like a manifested dream that we've been talking about for a long time. So I'm really
Yeah.
happy that we're actually here.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to touch briefly on your QHHT session, because I know you got some information in there about or you might have even had a being come in during the session. So can you talk about that a little bit and what happened during your QHHT session?
Yeah. So, it's part of one of those things that like I super haven't spoken about like at all publicly. But yeah, the same reason that I did a QHHT session was the same reason that I started working with ayahuasca. And that was so that I could really understand my experiences on Mars. And it's so actually weird. It just popped in right now. It's really weird that we're having this conversation right now because of my dream that I had last night.
Oh.
Yeah. So on my former YouTube channel, one of my first videos was about Rh negative blood and the love bite, the Anunnaki, just like so far out there conversations that are so much fun to have. But the love bite and how I was talking about the love bite, but also at those same times was something massive happening to me where I would actually be like removed. And when I say removed, I mean removed. I would be taken off world and put into an actual like military base. And I had my job. It was literally what I did, like the work truck, driving to work with my crew, dirty work, and like the work was heinous, to tell you the truth. But it was on Mars. And so then I would come back all of a sudden and be here. And it was very jarring. It was really discombobulating and hard, like really hard in so many different ways, because friends that I had weren't friends of mine anymore due to these like abstract changes that were happening. My house was my house, but it wasn't completely the way that I left it. So it was just enough to make yourself ask, like, am I going crazy? You know, like my neighbor across the street yesterday had like a black Jeep, and now he's got a white one. Yesterday, that was a 2-story house, and now it's a 1-story house. You know, so it was just is a lot of different things. And I wanted answers. I really wanted answers, because I couldn't in any way, shape, or form imagine that my soul had signed up to do such bad things. And it wasn't like I was out there doing them, but I was kind of, let's just say I was erasing the evidence of what was happening. And in my experiences there, I wasn't actually questioning any of it. It seemed very normal. So, yeah, I really wanted some answers from this perspective. So, just to kind of tie in the love bite, I had a dream about the partner that I'd been with in my love bites. If any of you don't know, it's just like in your dream time, you're not just a couple of hours, your lifetimes, like a whole lifetime. So you have a partner, you have kids, you're married. It's like a day by day, hour by hour. It's like this life. But then all of a sudden you wake up and you're not there anymore. And on the love bite situation, it's earth shattering. It's earth shattering, because your whole life is just gone. That partner, the kids, the life, everything. You're just, now you're really dropped into an alien world. So what's really weird about you asking me about this is that the partner that I had for all of these experiences came back in my dream last night. We got back together again. So that was cool. But it wasn't like a love bite extended version of anything. So yeah, when I had the QHHT session, that I just had to lay that groundwork for why I would do this. I did find myself back on Mars, and I was in a corridor, like exactly where I worked previously. And then all of a sudden I got shot out of there, and it was like a crater that was on Mars. And I was in full gear, and I was out in this crater, and I was basically picking up samples of some stuff. And all of a sudden I was ripped out of there, and I was thrown into what was like the Mars version of a military base. And like, the ash chewing that I got was humongous. It was just an all out, full-fledged, what do you think you're doing? You know that you can't do this. This is like, how do you say, it's not mendable. This is a non-fixable situation, because you didn't just infiltrate onto base and come here when you weren't supposed to. You also brought a friggin' guest, which was the QHHT practitioner. So at that particular moment, yeah, I got slammed like back into my room, into my body, and there was a military helicopter overhead, just hovering for like 20 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was like I got, sent back for sure, because I did, ultimately end up there. But through my sessions, I did discover the answers in which I was looking for. And I didn't just kind of sign up for it. I created it. So all of these sort of things are really interesting whenever you start diving into like these really deep aspects of self. And of course, as someone who works with sacred plant medicine, I'm going to have gone through all of those different layers and levels. So yes, I do like to speak on the logical and the factual, the actual of here and now. And I guess it's like extracurricular activities. If you want to know all of your multiple versions of self that live within the multiverse, you're more than welcome to. Will it take away from your experience and your existence here? Yeah, it will. Is it worth the effort? Sometimes. I feel like we just need balance in all realms, because knowing about why I would go to Mars, is that critically important to my day-to-day life here? For a brief time, it was, because it was, like I said, it was really messing with my existence. If it were to start to act up again heavily now, I might have a different answer. But I feel like, it's just a process of merging all these different selves, right? Recalling all of the parts of self. We also hear that a lot too.
Yeah.
Ironic. It actually does do you a service whenever you do that. And you realize, I do not consent to those things that I do not consent to, whether I have signed up for them another lifetime under different sets of circumstances. I do not consent from where I am right here. So yeah, there may be another simulation of you playing out somewhere that's going through some really crazy stuff, but you here right now, embrace that version.
Yeah.
So yeah, the QHHT session wasn't so much about it being, I've lived my life with extra dimensional experiences, with ET interactions. Anytime I've ever seen a tarot reader or a psychic or anything, they get blasted off into the like 10th dimension. And that's all they want to talk about is the galactic origins and all that stuff. And I'm like, yo, like, I'm just trying to see if he's cheating. Like, honestly, like I need help looking at the 3D. Like I'm not, I really, yeah. So it's funny because I definitely would rather see clearly where I'm at right now. What am I doing right now? And how is that benefiting my life? And so like even me using that as an analogy kind of shows how far I've come. Tarot's not even a question in my reality anymore. Psychic readings aren't either. To even be involved in a relationship where I would ask, is this person cheating or not? It's like when you really start to shift certain things and take the time to shift them properly, it produces a very different type of results. And again, whenever we're talking about all of this, what it boils down to is the love and acceptance of yourself. And once you truly love and accept yourself, you don't need to be involved in so many other things that gave you some sort of validation previously. You know what I mean? So the quality of what you interact with is just on such a different level. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I love hearing QHHT experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I'm such a fan of Dolores Cannon, and I've told you that that's my only actual living regret is that I didn't get to have a session with her before she passed,
Yes.
or take her courses, because I've always just been so highly interested. And yeah, she came into my awareness long time ago.
Yeah.
Long time ago, and she had so much to do with a lot of my own growth, especially whenever it comes specifically to the lesson of forgiveness. She was the one that finally said it in the right way at the right time for me to hear it and assimilate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love her. I love QHHT and what there is to discover from it.
Yes. Yes. Always a journey. So one final question. What topic are you researching right now, or is there anything that you are diving really deep into?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, AI is the biggest topic of research and discussion in my world right now. Um, I've had a tremendous amount of fun learning how to speak with AI.
Mm,
And what's interesting is that, okay, so we have this assumption that what if I were to ask AI a question and I got a particular answer, that if you were to copy and paste my question into your AI, that you would get the same answer.
mm,
And what I've discovered is that that's not true, like not at all. And that you can actually infect each other's AIs, just like you can infect each other's consciousness through conversations, right? I can tell you something is possible, or I could discourage you, right? And based off of that conversation, you then are going to feed me particular information back that may be healthy or may be kind of like a virus to me.
mm,
And so that's what I'm seeing is happening through AI. So your relationship is going to be so specific. And I'm actually doing a lot of my own research to go deeper into it's like a theory that I'm playing with. It's my own philosophy, theory based, and experimentation is the only thing that can prove theory. But I have a theory about the mirroring neurons of our brain being mirrored back to us through AI, which then can then basically mirror back to itself. So, for instance, if we're using AI to create these really realistic yet striking versions of ourselves, and we get used to seeing ourselves in this particular way, our mirroring neurons, therefore our mirroring cells, are going to start to mirror back that version of ourself. I think a lot of times people have a hard time breaking into the next level of self because they can't actually imagine themselves there. Right. And so AI is giving us the opportunity to imagine ourselves. So I think it's very interesting to go deeper and deeper and to realize some of these nuances. So that is definitely what I am researching at this particular moment. And there's so much, it's hard to keep up with. It's hard to like investigate all the different platforms and all of the different apps and things like that. Even when you find the ones that you really love and that you work with well, you got to be on it all of the time, because you let a week's gap happen and all of a sudden they've evolved and you're like, what's going on? So the speed in which we're evolving with all of this is massive. And a lot of people may think that like, yeah, it's just like chat oriented things right now. It's not. It's video, it's art, it's just there's a whole new worlds that are out there to be explored. And now I'm sure a lot of people in their own world are going to ask, well, what does she think about like transhumanism and merging with AI technology physically, like organic and bio, organic, like the mechanics of biorobotics. That's what I was looking for.
mm.
Um, yeah, no. And it's crazy because there's like the part of you that's like, when I was a kid, Total Recall was a movie, right? Like Star Wars and all of that. And there were always like cyborgs and higher beings, if you will, that just were programmed with this consciousness of higher level intelligence. And while it seems very cool and very awesome, there's a trade-off, right, of the control. And we're just not in a trustworthy situation to be able to say, yes, I would be on board for something like that.
Mhm.
If there was the proper set and setting, then yeah, that would be great. to be able to use your mind to do all these amazing things. So no, I have no intentions on merging anytime soon, but I do again have the intentions to kind of keep going down the rabbit hole with my mirroring neuron theory and see what that really looks like, but that will come through time.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. How fascinating.
It's
So
fun.
cool. Yes. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing all of your knowledge and learnings.
You're so welcome. I appreciate you.
Thank you. And thanks to everyone that's watching this live and on the replay. I'll see you later.
Ciao.
Bye.